And we should be live for the Steelers Depot live stream here on Monday, April 12th. It would be helpful if I pulled up the stream on my end first to make sure we are live. But Alex Kazora here alongside Dave Bryan here answering any and all of your Steelers questions for the next hour. Before we start things off, I already have a couple questions here in the chat. I just want to do a quick audio test here. So, Dave, how you doing? And talk to the people for me, please.
Testing. Happy Monday. How is everybody? Test.
All right,
Hello, Cleveland.
Let me know, guys, if that sounds okay. If Dave sounds like a robot, then I know the setting to turn on and off for that, and make sure there's no audio issues, and then we'll dive into your guys' questions. Mutated Genome says the sound is good to go. We have Jody here. We have Simon, David O, as always, Verdon, Wyatt, Tyler Wise, member of the Steelers Depot staff. David O says we sound loud and clear, so I think we are good to go. Again, answering your questions here, and also in the background, I'll have Dave's first mock draft of the season was posted today. I think it's an ideal version of the Steelers draft. Is kind of how I view it.
Oh, stop it. And while Tyler Wise is on, everybody say hello to Tyler. Tyler obviously been with us, I think going on a year now, pretty close to it. Does a lot of great stuff on draft profile stuff. He manages the Instagram account as well, too. So get over to the Instagram account, Steelers Depot, and like or favor or whatever you do over there and say hi to Tyler. We appreciate all of his help.
Absolutely, and thank you for reminding me of that in your sentence, because I forgot to mention today was our 200th draft profile went up on the site. Today was number 200, which was our goal, and so we've crushed our goal. I'm going to easily surpass that by the time the draft rolls around. So thank you to the Steelers Depot team.
And show them real quick the easy to use compilation of the pro day numbers of all the combine invites and all like that, all in one handy place. We have that compiled for Yins now with links to not only are we linking the draft profiles that we've done on these players in this sheet and all, but if you also click on the name of each player, you will go to the school bio of that player. We have the RAS scores linked in there. We have, everything imaginable is in there. I've added the All-Star game column in there so you can see which players have been where. So you can obviously get, this should be a one kind of stop place for at least the combine invites for this year when it comes to measurables and any and all kind of, info imaginable there. So we invite you. I'll put that together this weekend. I've been waiting to try to for pro days to get done and all like that, and finally got that knocked out here.
Yeah, tremendous work. This is going to be such a really important resource, especially without the combine this year and just trying to find information in one place. I know for myself, it was really hard to try to find information all in one location. So this is a vital resource, I would say. All right, let's jump into the questions here. And we'll start things off here with Stiller. Stiller says, where do you think we will draft a tackle and why? I think it's going to be a little bit later than it's going to be earlier, just for two reasons. One, a couple of reasons, I should say. You re-sign Zach Banner, you sign Joe Haig. I think you still go into the draft with an idea of a core four. One side, probably the left side, Banner, right side. And as Kevin Colbert said, this is a deep offensive tackle class. And so I think given the other needs, not a deep running back class, things like that, I think tackle gets put on the back burner a little bit. So I'm thinking maybe late day 2. I'm thinking more early, mid day 3, though, when it comes to offensive tackle.
I don't think it's going to happen in the first round, but I think any time in the next, let's see, they got 2 4th-round picks, right?
Right.
So anywhere within the next 4 picks, I would expect it to happen. They could surprise us and go that way in the second round. My kid Brown out of Northern Iowa, Iowa getting a lot of run lately, right? I think Tony Pauline says the Steelers really like him. Personally, I think second rounds might be a little bit rich on him overall. But if they like the guy, they like the guy, and we've seen in the past it really doesn't matter what we think or what round people think a player should go. If the Steelers like him, they like him. But I would expect a tackle to go somewhere in those 4 picks between the second and the 4th round.
So where do you think center fits into all that? Because you're trying to juggle running back and center and offensive tackle, and also some of the needs on defense as well.
I'd like to have about. Can you get me 3 more picks in the first 3 rounds?
That's what I'm saying. That was my terrible take the other day, saying someone's going to get the short straw here, and you can't do it with 8 picks and only three in the top 100.
Yeah, you got a lot of round. You got a lot of square pegs
A lot of
some
round
square
holes.
and some square holes to go along with them. So
Yeah,
you just it is tough because trying to fill up all these needs earlier rather than later, and you still get into the back end of the draft, and you say, it's like my mock. I'm thinking, oh man, I sure would like to get a free safety type
yeah,
maybe later in this thing. I would like to maybe get I don't know kind of a five tech late round five tech defensive end. I'd like to try to squeeze one of those in there. Uh, Nickel corner,
right.
obviously you try to fit that one in, maybe an inside linebacker. You go through this thing and you're right. You try to you run out of position, and then look, I've been banging the table for a punter as well too. You got to try to squeeze one of those in
And you
there,
did.
and I did. But you're right, it is so hard. So I think you really got to kind of prioritize this thing and uh, and go from there. And tight end, tight end's
Yeah,
another one. People
right.
say, well, I don't know, can tight end kind of wait this year? A wide receiver is another one. I really wanted to try to squeeze in a wide receiver in my mock draft, but you get to the end of it, and you look at what they have under contract right now and all, and it makes it tough to do. So
Hmm.
it's extremely tough to do a mock. I think this year more so, and that's even with them having 8 picks on
Right.
top of it.
Yeah, that's why I'll have an article before the draft about really taking a long look at trading down. Now you won't get to know if you can trade down and if you will be able to trade down until draft day. Takes two to tango. Who wants to come up for what? All those things are variables that no one can answer right now. But I think that would really be important for Pittsburgh to pick up an extra third or fourth round pick. The comparison I was too much puzzle, not enough puzzle pieces for the Steelers as things stand today.
And everybody going to get caught up on where I have Quinn Miners going in my mock, and a couple other guys and all like that. Look, that what I view a player's value at, where I think a player can go, obviously is not going to probably match up with everybody's. All it takes is one team to like a guy more than the other, and that throws everything out. I absolutely promise you, everybody listening right now, I will not nail every pick in this mock draft. I absolutely promise you I won't. I will be lucky if I have two right in here overall, and I'll be even more pleased if those two that I have right are in the actual positions where I have them here. When I do these things, I try to build them the way I think that the boards might be stacked. I try to do these with the way I think the Steelers would draft. Look, if it was up to me, would I draft a running back in the first round? Probably not.
Mhm.
Everybody knows how how I've kind of rail on the value there. But I mean, I really think where the Steelers are at right now, it certainly does feel like a running back in the first round, either Najee Harris or Travis Etienne, would be that. But don't get caught up in where these players are in these mock drafts. Try to focus on the player and what you think about the player and whether or not you think he's a fit. And let's have the discussions off of that instead of where these players are mocked at.
Agreed. Well said. And I'm glad that I was sitting down when you told me that you weren't going to nail every single one of these picks. That was.
I will officially retire
Mm.
if I nail all these.
All right. Something to keep an eye on. Place your Steelers Depot prop bets. All right, Mutated Genome says, hello, A&D. JOK is 6'1", 215, referring to Notre Dame linebacker Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah. That's around 10 to 15 pounds less than Shazier, who was a little light. If selected at 24, would you not be concerned with him playing inside linebacker at that weight? It's a fair question. Not to get into semantics too much, I think he weighed in. JOK did it his pro day at, I think, 221, so he came up a little bit. And it is a fair point, because it's a pretty still lightweight no matter how you want to try to slice this. But I think you have to just look at how you play the run. It's not just about size. There aren't any or very few 250 plus pound off ball linebackers. David Collins from Tulsa is one of them, but they're not common in today's NFL. Even a guy like Vince Williams, who's known as the physical classic buck linebacker, played about 230, 235 in his career. So I think it's more about the tape and strength and hand use and things like that, instincts, processing more so than it is just a pure weight factor. But I think that concern is understandable.
Right, one of the things too, he's a physical. He's not afraid to hit, but you'd
Hmm.
like to see him be a better form tackler. You'd like to see him bring his feet with him and wrap guys up instead of just shoulder them down into the ground. You might be able to get away with that at the college level, but you're not going to be able to get away with that at the pro level consistently. You're going to end up with a separated shoulder,
Right.
you know, eventually you keep trying to make tackles that way. Now look, not all of his tackles are that way. At least on the selection of games that I've watched of him there. But uh, I mean, look, in today's NFL with speed and being able to move and all like that, I wouldn't expect him to play at no 215, that's for sure. But I mean, if
Hmm.
he's able to put up those measurables that he put up at what was it, 221 or 222 or
Yeah.
something like that, he could probably stand it to eat another steak or two and carry around 228, right around in there, 230.
Yeah, and just excuse me, the theoretical idea of do you want a heavier linebacker that can play the run better, or do you want a lighter linebacker that's going to play the pass better? You're sacrificing something based on that theoretical weight versus what your skill set is. And so, would you rather sacrifice a little bit versus the run, or a little bit in terms of coverage? Again, I think stopping the run is still underratedly important for the AFC North when you're playing a team like Baltimore and Cleveland, even Cincinnati to a lesser extent. But when you're trying to tackle Lamar Jackson, you want speed out there. And so that also is going to help your run defense on perimeter runs, like what the Browns are going to run. So speed can obviously be an asset when defending the run as well. All right, John Pennington says, "Hello, Dave and Alex. What is your opinion of Elijah Moore, wide receiver out of Ole Miss? Reminds me of AB, and great job as always." Thank you, John. Let me pull up the scouting report on Elijah Moore. I know I didn't write it. I think the comparison I saw on NFL.com to Moore was Antonio Brown as well. Really good athlete, good production his this past year with Ole Miss. And yeah, this is Wesley that wrote the report here, so I'll just kind of scroll through it as we talk about Elijah Moore. Obviously, really, but an early day two pick, probably not going to be in contention for the Steelers.
Yeah, look, and great job by another one of our new guys, Wes, coming on board and really knocking it out of the park with his. I haven't watched a lot of him because of kind of where he's kind of slated to go right now, and really had a nice pro day, I think, on top of it. And I would think if the Steelers were going to be able to draft him, you would think it would have to come in the first 2 days of the draft, and I'm just not convinced that they'll have wide receiver that high up on the board. So thus, I've watched enough to know who he is, but I haven't dug too terribly deep into to watch his route running overall
Yeah, let's
to
see what.
to know about the comparison versus AB.
I mean, that's a lofty claim for anybody. Obviously, West put an early day two projection on him, which sounds about where he's projected to go in a really strong receiver class. All right, let's find the next question here. Robert Arnold asks, given the number of needs on the roster, do you think the Steelers should trade back from 24 to somewhere in the 30 to 45 range in order to accumulate more picks? Dave, I'm sure you wouldn't be opposed to trading back. I think the question Robert's getting to is, though, do you feel like you have to stay in the first round, or would you be okay moving into round two?
I wish I could just push that button right now that says trade and trade down a couple spots. I don't if they look. I think you can make a lot of great arguments for all the needs that the Steelers have this year going into the draft, where it sure wouldn't hurt to maybe pick up another third round selection this year for moving down 2, 3, 4 spots or something like that. Especially if you still think you could still get like say one of two or three guys that maybe you have circled there. So uh, would I be opposed to something like that happening? Absolutely not. Trying to predict, you pull your hair out trying to
Hmm.
predict something like that. As far as going out of the first round, I mean, history just tells you that they won't do it. I mean, in doing so, also you give away the ability to have the fifth round. I mean, the fifth year option on top of it. And yeah, I understand the whole Minka Fitzpatrick thing and trading away the first round pick there. But not only did you get the player, but you got the opportunity to have the fifth round option with him
Hmm.
on top of it. If you trade out of the fifth round, I mean, out of the first round completely this year, not only are you giving up the ability to draft, you know, potentially a top 32 player in this year's draft. You also are giving up the opportunity of the fifth year option to go along with that. So I think that side of it alone, that in history would tell you that the odds of the Steelers trading out of the first round completely are very low. Now, trading down 3 or 4 spots, I mean, once again, if you gave me a button to push right now, I'd push it, to go down 3 spots to get another third round draft pick. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way.
Yeah, and Colbert, for whatever it's worth, has only traded down in the first round once. That was back in 2001 from 16 to 19. Still got Casey Hampton, but I think he only picked up like a mid to late fourth round pick. And so I don't know if you could net a third round pick by just coming down, 2, 3 spots, maybe depending on what the board looks like and how much of a market there is to try to move down or teams coming up. But obviously, the devil's advocate would be the further you go down, the more you're actually going to get in return to move down.
Giovanni Bernard signing with the Buccaneers.
Yeah, so that news came across a little bit earlier today, and so he'll be the, I guess, new James White, Kevin Falk for Tom Brady.
There you go.
And I'm thinking about, there's a question of, do you want to trade down? I think we both agree that there's merit in trading down, but the question is, what do teams want to come up for? Because it's not like there's likely to be a quarterback sitting there, which is where a lot of teams want to come up and try to get that guy, like a Lamar Jackson or a Mahomes or someone like that. I'm thinking offensive tackle. Someone wants one of those tackles, a top team gets their quarterback early, and now they want to get a tackle to pair him with, or even a Chiefs team that's probably looking for a tackle right now sitting at 31. So could you do a swap with KC to move down 7 spots, pick up, I think, a third round. I don't know exactly what picks the Chiefs have, but they get a left tackle or right tackle, whatever, to protect Mahomes. Is that a reasonable
Oh
thought
yeah, I
process?
mean, yeah. I mean, but once again, we'll pull our hair
Sure.
out
Yeah.
trying to come up with scenarios of who, why, when, how, and how many.
Yeah, I'm just thinking out loud here about what could teams be wanting to come up for when I think it would probably be one of those tackles that are still remaining on the board.
Sure, that makes sense.
All right, next question here. I think this is similar to what Robert asked, but from Wyatt Schaefer, how much capital do you see the Steelers have to move around the board? Do you see them moving forward or back at all in the first 2 rounds? We discussed the trade down scenarios. In terms of trading up, in this whole draft, really, the only way I would be okay with them trading up, considering we just talked about the lack of kind of capital to fill all their needs, is if they really wanted to try to get that slam dunk quarterback, which I think is unlikely to happen at this point. But other than that, I don't know what you could trade up for it and get and feel okay about it, to be honest with you.
It really would have to be a player that you just love, and it had to be a quarterback, I would think, at this point.
Yeah.
And on top of it, hopefully, if you did do something like that, I don't think they will, but if you did, hopefully you've got 2022 picks involved in it, because look, they need all eight picks that they have this year. They could probably use 2 more on top of it, to be quite honest with you, this year. But look, never say never, right? But I'll put it to you this way: I will be surprised if they trade up in this year's draft. I'll
Yeah.
be even more surprised than I was, a couple years ago when they traded up for Devin Bush as high as they did.
Yeah. I'm with you 100%, Dave. Simon Kigo? I don't know how to say that. I apologize. But Simon says, I should say, hey guys, with all the current needs, I can't seem to get my head around taking a receiver early, so was just wondering if you had come across any late round deep threats who might interest them. I'm trying to think about some guys that they've talked to. The first thing that popped in my head was a guy Dave and I spoke to last week, Marquez Stevenson from Houston, 4.47, I think was his official 40 time. Good return guy. She has 3, I think, kick return touchdowns his last 2 years with the Cougars. So that could be a later day 3 option that kind of jumped to my mind when you asked the question, Simon.
Boy, how great was that pro day media session? The last one that we did of the year, and we did quite a few. What a great class of kids they had on display there. But yeah, I like that. What about who's a North Texas kid?
Yeah, Jalen Darden.
Darden?
Yeah.
Is it Darden? Fifth
Darden.
or sixth round. A little bit undersized kid, but he's exciting to watch. I really like Stevenson. Turned on the tape on him. Who are some of the kind of bigger kids a little bit later there as well too? Someone maybe that's got a little bit of speed to him. The Smith-Marset kid, maybe out of Iowa.
Okay, Brandon. Yeah, that's he's a bigger guy though, right?
Emir. Now this one's 6 foot, 6 foot, almost 6'1", I think he
Okay.
is. The Iowa kid put up some. So Sage Surratt might be another one. You know, he didn't run all that great, but I haven't really had a chance to drill down and see how much that matches the tape there. But if they, unfortunately, I'll tell you my thoughts on wide receiver. If
Hmm.
they do go wide receiver in this draft and they do go later, say fifth or sixth or fifth or seventh, or not fifth, it'd be sixth or seventh round as they stand right now. I really think they like that Schwartz kid out of Auburn,
Hmm.
and I would not be surprised if he's kind of the guy. Now, to me, he's not that exciting on tape, but I could see him fitting in the Matt Canada offense, if you will, as kind of a gadget, kind of that guy that you try to scheme open that way. So I did not put a wide receiver in my latest mock draft. It's not for a lack of effort, but if they did go one, I would think it'd be late. And I love Alex's suggestion about the kid out of Houston. He's really talented and great personality on top of
Hmm.
it. Marquez Stevenson.
They took DeMarcus Ayers a couple years ago, 7th round. I could see similar, maybe a little bit higher, 6th round pick with Marquez Stevenson. All right, next question here. Again, be sure to drop your questions in the chat. Dave and I are here until the top of the hour. Let me find where we were at here. Verdon Barzy says, "Hey guys, thanks for doing this each week. Appreciate it, Verdon. You guys have been great. Which one of the top 3 running backs do you think fits Canada's offense scheme the best?" Alex, we know ETN is your least favorite, so I assume he's referring to ETN. Najee Harris from Alabama and Javonte Williams from North Carolina. Who do you think fits best in Canada's offense, however you view that to be?
Oh boy, that's you know what? You listened. I don't know how many people got a chance to listen to that Najee Harris interview with Adam Schefter. It was absolutely fantastic, and now I think he's got a series of videos coming out on his YouTube channel as well too. This is a guy that spent a lot of time in different offenses during his time at University of Alabama. He really comes off as an intelligent kid, X's and O's and all like that. I would view I think Harris can do it all. Uh, 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 Obviously, ETN probably gives you more of that explosiveness factor, but man, give me 10-yard runs. I'm not so concerned about 20-yard runs as I am maybe 10-yard runs or guys that can maybe short yardage and pick that up for you. Another area where the Steelers have suffered the last couple of years there. So I don't think you're going to go wrong with either one of them, to be honest with you. Talking about Najee Harris or Travis Etienne, but I would still lean a little bit more toward Harris right now.
Yeah, I would go Harris too. I don't want to risk overthinking it. I know we're talking about Canada's offense, about what it could be, and obviously it's going to look different than what Randy Feetner ran. You're going to see more pre-snap motion and jet, hopefully more pistol, things like that. But you just want to get talented players. If you get good players, they can fit in your scheme really, regardless of what your scheme is, generally speaking, at least. And so I think Harris is just simply the best player of those 3, and so he's the best player I think that would fit in Canada's offense. So I would rank them Harris, Williams, and then ETN third.
You have Etienne behind Williams, huh?
I do. I think Williams has more power and still has that contact balance. Maybe not quite to that degree of ETN, but still has a lot more power. And I think I like his ball security better than ETN, who had that nasty case of fumbles last season.
Okay.
All right, next question here. Let me see. Ultimate Elite 11. What is your opinion on Paulson Adebo? It's a corner out of Stanford. I really enjoyed watching some of his stuff and think he can possibly take some pressure off Sutton's role as a number 2. I'm not quite sure what that means in terms of taking pressure off of Sutton. I haven't watched a ton of him, but I know some of the stuff that I haven't watched, some stuff that I've read, that he's a really good kind of click and close corner, but probably a little bit stiff. So I don't know if he's great for this man heavy scheme the Steelers run. Probably more of a zone cover 3, cover 2 type of corner that can just kind of play zone and then come downhill and close on the football. So maybe not the best scheme fit for the Steelers.
Yeah, I haven't watched enough of him on top of it too. I tell you though, he's got the athleticism you see there with the change of direction.
Hmm.
You see on him. I too would probably worry more about maybe what scheme best fits and all like that on him. where do most people have him going? Probably middle rounds, I would think.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure. Probably late day 2 to early day 3. I don't know exactly where he's been pegged though.
Yeah, and he obviously would probably be more of a, obviously an outside corner on top of it from what I've seen.
Hmm.
I haven't watched enough of him yet, to be honest
Yeah.
with you.
Simon asked another question. Shame they're missing out on Carl Joseph. Any similar players still on the market? Assume they wait till after the draft anyway. Kevin Colbert, August trade on the cards again. That could be certainly on the latter question in terms of free agent safeties right now. It's not a lot. Trey Boston in his never-ending quest of bouncing from team to team for whatever reason, year to year, and that's about it. There's not a lot of safety help out there on the free agent wire.
Nah, yeah, there isn't, and now once Carl, that tells you what they're trying to spend right now,
Do we
which
know
is next
details
to
on
nothing.
Joseph's contract?
No, but it's going to be more than minimum, I would think, right?
Hmm. You would think, but I'd just be curious to know because obviously that would assume the Steelers didn't come to that number, whatever it ends up being.
They probably just left one of the veteran benefit.
Mm.
Told gave him a doctor's pass to go get a physical, and then left the contract taped to the door. Because they just this time of year right now it's typical Kevin Colbert kind of stuff. Either you take those 1 year deals for the minimum at this time of the year, or they try to sign you to the 2 year deal where they can still keep your cap hit, very, very manageable. And I'm guessing, I think he would have been willing to sign had obviously the money been there, but I'm willing to bet it wasn't, and I can't wait to see what kind of money he got to go back to the Raiders for a second
Yeah, we
second
shall
turn there.
see. Mike Adesso asks, my favorite strategy is draft best player available at 24. If all three running backs still there and you didn't draft one in round 1, trade up into the top 10, 14 in round 2, offering a future third, maybe in draft that running back thought. So his idea is basically assume you don't take a running back at 24, you take another position, then come up into the early mid second round to go get that running back. What do you think about that idea?
Well, the thing is, once again, you're assuming that you can automatically make that happen.
Hmm.
And you assume that that you'll find a team to go up to that spot, and you assume what the currency is going to be involved in that as well too. And I just don't think you can. I Obviously you'll have players circled, and if this player falls into this range, Kevin Colbert will probably tell you, well, that's a guy we really wanted. We felt like we had to go up 4 or 5 spots to get him. And ultimately they were able to do that. Would be the after talk on that. But to sit here and try to kind of plan on it, look, we believe a lot, or I believe a lot that comes out of Kevin Colbert's mouth. A lot. I don't think Kevin Colbert tries to play games a lot of times. However, I years and years have gone by where I think, yeah, don't hand me this best player available kind of stuff.
Hmm.
You obviously went for the need a little bit more than you did best player available, and you know. I think we've seen that in years past. Now you get into the middle rounds. I think that obviously a lot harder to predict and know who's going to be where. I think best player available tends to come into play a little bit more in there. But I get tired year in year out of well, this is a special player, best player available. We just couldn't pass up.
Hmm.
Kind of deal. But I mean, it sounds good in theory, Mike. I mean, I don't have an issue with it, but I just don't think it's something that you can write down and say, okay, here's the plan.
Sure, and you could easily see, running backs that fall a little bit. Harris, Etienne, even if they don't go in the top 25, top 30, they're going to go pretty quickly once that second round starts to go, and the value there becomes too good to ignore, and you're kind of out the whole, past the first round stigma of the running back position. So if you could do it without trading any additional 2021 capital, you're trading, I guess this would be this year's second and next year's third for, to move up to 40 or wherever, maybe, but I don't think you can really touch any additional this year capital. Otherwise, you're going to even struggle all the more about addressing all the many holes that are currently existing on this roster.
And if you don't get one of the top four anyway, and I'll go ahead and say that Trey Sermon's number four. Okay,
Mm,
so and we obviously know who the other three are or the other perceived three that would fit the Steelers. Not no disrespect to Michael Carter, very talented player in his own, but if you don't get one of those four, then 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 wait. I
hmm
mean, don't do nothing because how many times have we seen this team? I mean, what the last four drafts in a row, right? Mid-round running backs or later.
Yep. Yep. So it's Connor, Samuel, Snell, and McFarland.
I mean, one of those four you would think are destined to be a Steeler. I would think, and we'll see. But I just don't think you can sit here and plan on. Okay, well we didn't get Najee or ETN in the first. We're going to go ahead and plan on trading up in the second
Hmm
round to get one of the other two. I mean,
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with it in theory, mind you, but I just don't think that you can sit there and plan for something like that to happen.
Sure, I think that's well said. Got a really generous super chat here from Vegas TJG, who says, "Keep up the great work." $20 super chat. Thank you so much. You have a question
Does
right?
he live in Vegas?
Yeah. If the screen name is true, then maybe he does. But also says, "What happens if Ben has a really good year this year, Dave? What do you think happens if Ben lights up the world?"
I guess you'd have to define that a little bit more for me.
Well,
But
so
go
good
ahead.
he doesn't want to retire, or the team doesn't want him to retire, and he doesn't want to retire. Put it that way.
I think it's plausible. I think it's plausible. Now I wouldn't go betting the house on it in Vegas here, but I mean if if he leads this team to the playoffs and a deep playoff run, and has maybe a better a little bit better ending than obviously he had late last season, I think it's plausible that he could play in 2022. But here's the thing too: you'd have to get all this probably worked out by the time 5 days after the Super Bowl happens, because that's when when the voidable years of the contract void, right?
Hmm
So
Right.
uh, yeah, you have to keep that in mind as well too, because if you don't get that all taken care of before then you're going to have, regardless of what you do with his contract, you're going to have a $10 million dead money cap hit for a player that you wanted back. You
Right.
know, but yeah, I think we'll get our answer about midway through the season anyway. When it comes to how he's playing, but I would say odds are against it right now, him playing in 2022, but stranger things have happened, right?
Sure. This year's been proof of that. Matt Boatwright says, "Happy long Monday. I need some 2+ hour podcast to get me through my work days. Thanks for all the great work. We'll have our terrible podcast tomorrow, Dave and I. So thank you, Matt, for tuning in today. We appreciate it." Andresa says, "If the voidable years create a dead cap, then wouldn't that mean there's going to be less cap for free agent signings, which increase player wages? Is the NFLPA going to be okay with that?" So I think Andresa is saying more dead money means less money to go to free agents, which is only going to bring down their potential earnings. What are your thoughts on that question and commentary?
In other words, will dead money hurt free agency next year?
I think that's the gist of the question, yes.
Okay, well, dead money. Remember, dead money is accounted for proration is essentially what that is. Okay, there's when you're talking cash and cap along those lines, you're talking about really kind of two different things. When you're talking about dead money, you're talking about money being dead that's already paid out. So it doesn't change the fact that you already paid that money out. And cap space can be massaged to a fact, if you go into a free agency and you need cap space, we've seen how cap space can be massaged. So uh, I wouldn't worry about the dead money aspect of it all affecting how a team spends. Now, obviously, if you get into a case where you have so much dead money versus other players you have under contract, then obviously that could become an issue. And let's say you don't have a lot of players to restructure. See, the thing that the Steelers ran into this year is the cap came in, obviously significantly less than what their plans were a couple years ago, because you probably do this thing in 3 to 4 year increments where you're trying to plan out your cap situation here. You go from people thinking the cap was going to be what 200 and I don't know 10 million, right,
Right.
Alex?
Yep.
To what did the number come in at 180 182.5, right?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yep.
All right, so I mean, you look at the big swing there. That's imagine that being a huge dead money cap hit, uh, on your ledger, because that's essentially what it is. You don't have that money to spend that you thought you're going to have to spend. So then you see what they had to do with Ben Roethlisberger. You see what they had to do with Juju as part of his deal. You saw some cap casualties here. That's a long answer to the short question there. But overall, the as long as you're not stacking up, and look, they're going to have some dead money regardless. But with what the cap is supposed to go up next year is based on the new media deals and all like that. Steelers specifically, I don't think the potential dead money they're going to have on the books is going to impact how much they spend in free agency next year. Now, granted, this is a team that never makes big, huge free agency splashes anyway. So, be prepared to sit on your hands a little bit anyway when it comes to that. But remember that dead money, the aspect of dead money is more so is the finality of money that you've already spent. And what it is just a proration of bonus money to help you better navigate the cap.
I do wonder, though, and that's kind of the last part of Andres' question, is that how will A, the union, and B, the owners look at voidable years? And if it does this become more commonplace in the future, I imagine it will, even when, financially, cap-wise, things are better, just as another tool teams can use. And will the NFL or the union try to curb the use of these voidable contracts that have been handed out like candy this year?
Well, the union wants the player paid now, so they would gladly take the player getting paid now and have you deal with the repercussions of the dead money after, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Okay, and on top of that, with the cap escalating every year, if things are going good, well, then the cap continues to escalate, and I would think that they would view it as kind of at least offsetting a good portion of that dead money because of it. Now, the voidable year aspect, it's not a great practice to use overall, right? So I mean, yeah, teams will try to use that if they get into certain situations like you see this year. But I don't think just because we know why it happened so much this year,
Sure.
right?
Yeah, the cap can constricted so much more, and no one planned or predicted this, obviously.
Right. And at least some players are still getting paid on top of it. It's just a mechanism, I think, that's more. I don't think you're doing yourself any favors by automatically creating huge, uh, unkickable cap cans in the middle of the road, but by doing that.
Yeah.
At least when you restructure a player's contract, normally that's done so that you're pushing money on out into future years, not just one lump sum into one year that is going to come back to bite you. So
Hmm.
overall, it's cap malpractice, quite honestly, and that's why I don't think you're going to see, assuming the pandemic and fans come back and the revenues back the way it's supposed to be. I don't think you're going to see this as an ongoing mechanism as widely as it was used this offseason moving into future years, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think we'll see it used as widely and commonly this year in future years as it was this year. But I think teams will lean on this going forward more in the future, because if it comes down to, do we have to cut a player to get cap compliant or just do a voidable year contract? A lot of teams will take the idea of, let's do the voidable year contract and clear up cap space that way, instead of having to cut a player or not be able to make this free agent move, whatever the case is. And when you're kind of faced with two options that have negative consequences, I think some teams will lean on that voidable year method, even if it is going to mean more dead money in the future.
Okay, and the NFLPA would stand up and applaud you because you managed to keep a job that way.
Yeah, maybe. I think that's the broader question. Will anyone ever intervene in this? Maybe not. Maybe so. And we'll get our answer in the next couple of years.
I don't, unless they have some sort of special, bylaw passing or something at this point. I would think that that's going to run on for this entire. Look, it's always been people will abuse anything, right?
Sure.
But
Yeah.
uh, personally, if it saves a job, I don't see why the NFLPA would have any issue with it, right?
hmm Yeah. No, that's a fair point. All right. Blake Willie says, "Do you think they will draft a quarterback, or do you think they will bank on Haskins developing?" Um, I've really warmed up to the idea more and more that they are going to draft a quarterback at some point in the mid rounds. Not at 24, but in the mid rounds, I could definitely see it happening. And I think you probably don't agree with that, but I have a feeling it's going to happen.
You got that other three picks on the way for me that I ordered up at the top of the show or what? I just I hope they don't.
Yeah, I wouldn't like it. I think
I
they
mean,
will.
I hope they don't. If you were going to make a plausible argument for it, and I think we've talked about this on the podcast before, I would think it would happen around round 3 or round 4. I more than likely I can envision it happening with one of those two fourth round picks, quite
hmm
honestly, and I could see it being someone like Mond or something, or the Newman kid, or something like that. I would. I'm not going to slam dunk and say, "Oh no, that's no way that's going to happen." But I would lean to them not drafting a quarterback this year. But if it did happen, I could envision it happening with maybe one of those two picks in the fourth round.
Yeah, I just look at it from the standpoint of there are no quarterbacks under contract after this season. And if we applied that to any other position, if there was no, wide receivers under contract past this year or no outside linebackers under contract past this year, we'll be screaming about how they have to take that position because there's no one there. And obviously not all of Ben, Rudolph, and Haskins are going to be on this roster next season. Probably two at best, at most, of those guys are going to return. And so I think the team wants to have options and guys who are under contract before going into this year. That's how I view it, but we'll see.
Okay, we'll
All
see.
right.
Oh,
Again,
I
I
hope they
would
don't.
support. Yeah, I think it'd be a terrible idea, but I don't. Obviously what I think does not matter here. Let's see. I just lost the question here. I was going to look at. Mike was asking you about Miners and having a fourth round grade on him. I mean, it's what you have him projected. I don't know if that means your grade, but where do you rank Miners? Is Mike's question in terms of best centers in this class.
Here's the thing. They should see the little direct message chat that I had with all the guys today, trying to get their opinions on this. I love me some Quinn Minor. Okay, let me get that out there first and foremost. The thing is here is the media darling, are the media pushing this guy, or are the media draftniks pushing this guy way up, way too up higher than what his tape and his measurables say he should be? And I kind of feel that's the case with him. Also, how many center slash guards do you see at 6027, under 6'3", get drafted in the first two rounds and actually make a huge impact? Yeah, there are instances of it. But also remember this: if you find me those instances, those are normally bigger school kids on top of it that have a lot of playing experience here. So now in the case of Miners, you have a kid that started less than 30 games at Whitewater, Wisconsin. You have a kid that measures in under 6'3". I think it's 60278 to be exact with him. There, you have a kid that also sat out the entire 2020 season on top of it. Man, if you're a GM, you better be slam dunk on your projection with him if you're going to draft him in the second or early third round. I have him outside of the top 75. Okay, so I have him somewhere between, I don't know, 76 to 95, right around in there. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I do get what you're saying, and I think those are all really good points. And centers sometimes, I mean, now he could play guard too. I don't want to typecast him as a center, but in Pittsburgh he'd be a center. They do tend to fall a little bit more than other positions along the offensive line. But you're saying you got him 76 to 90 something, but in your mock you had him at 128. So how do you go from in that range to, okay, now he's going to fall even another 30 plus spots past that range.
Because I just think he gets pushed down for all the reasons that we said
Okay.
there. I really think I will not be shocked if he falls out of the third round. Now once again we're getting into okay, Dave. See, it's unrealistic. You got to throw Dave's whole mock out now. It's all unrealistic now. So.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah.
my value of a player is going to be different than your value of a player. And Daniel Jeremiah said this kid slam dunk second round. So, uh, what what penalty does he pay if he's wrong?
Nothing. None. And obviously, I think saying slam dunk for anybody is a stretch, especially for a guy with all the variables as you're talking about. Although I would be surprised if he fell out of the third round. I think he's.
See, everybody will remember I had him in the fourth round, but nobody will remember Daniel Jeremiah had him as a slam dunk second round guy,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, I mean that's how it goes. We'll see, but I do think I'd be surprised if he was there in the fourth round. I'm not going to say it's impossible for the reasons you mentioned. I think they're very good reasons, but I think he could be a second round guy, but I think more likely he's somewhere in the third round.
But what was the whole gist of the argument? That not really argument, just a discussion we had in direct message group direct message with the guys was, is this guy technically a slam dunk to go in the top 75?
No,
If would you bet your house right now that he'll go in the top 75?
no,
I wouldn't either. How
but you have.
surprised would you be if he falls out of the 75?
I mean, a
That's a
little
different
bit.
question.
Yeah, it's a moderate level, I guess. I think he's a third round guy. So I mean, that puts him in the top of the third round, top 75. 60 something to 75, beyond. But you have him at 128. So I think it's a different discussion between is he a top 75 guy versus is he top 125 kind of guy.
All right, the whole gist of the exercise, anyway, is to get these guys,
Right.
are they fits.
Sure.
I would love to see him in Pittsburgh as a center. I would like to see that kind of happen. He's got longer arms, he's got big hands, he's got that going for him, he's got the athleticism going for him. I'm just not so sure with that size at left guard in the NFL if that's going to work though.
Right. Right. All right. I want to speed through a couple more questions here because we only have about.
And once again, I mean, you got under 30 career college starts with this kid at a small school at
Mhm.
that. So if you're gonna take him in the top 75, don't miss.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. All right, I want to get through some of these a couple of more questions here. About 13 minutes left here in the live stream. Stiller says, "What are your thoughts on the Justin Fields video with Tomlin?" That was Tomlin just dapping up Fields. I don't put a lot of stock into that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't read too much into that at all.
Just
I mean, if you had a camera on Mike Tomlin
right.
everywhere you went, you'd probably have 30 of those moments.
He says that's all the pretty girls, I think, is the way I view that. Steeler Nation, a very nice comment. Thank you very much. Simon's asking, is Carlos Davis a long-term future at nose tackle, or is a Hayward Tuitt replacement? Can't remember where he's played mostly so far. Mostly nose tackle, some end. I think it's only 60-something snaps in his career so far. Probably not a long-term replacement for Hayward and Tuitt. Maybe at nose tackle, but we need to see a lot more from Carlos Davis to make a better assessment.
Yeah, it's too small a sample size right now on him. Now, look. I mean, in the 60-something snaps he's played, there's been some nice moments in there. All right,
Sure.
the game against that's some not bad tape against the Cowboys, right? But
Mm-hmm.
you you can't you can't qualify a guy by just saying not bad tape. That doesn't work these days. So we just need more on him, and I think we're going to see more on him in 2021. So we should have enough tape by the end of 2021 where we'll be able to make a better long-term assessment on him. Odds tell you that okay, a kid this late, yada yada, probably not going to make it. Especially at that position there. But once again, we are dealing with less than 70 defensive snaps in total, and really primarily one game worth judging. That's the game against Dallas, and it was good tape, but it wasn't awesome tape on top of it. So, it's hard to give a pass fail right now
Hmm.
on him.
Sure. Stephen Carpenter with a comment. They will draft Dave's boy, Asante Samuel Jr. Is that your boy, Dave? Asante
I
Samuel
that's
Jr.?
that's new to me. I mean, I think he's a fantastic prospect. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't know when. It's funny how I don't know how some of these guys become my boys or whatnot, but yeah, like you and I said the other day, I think there's about a good 5 or 6 guys that you could really see potentially being the pick based on where Tomlin and Colbert have been, uh, bloodline, all the boxes that we try to check. In regard to players being potential first round draft picks, I think he's in that group of players, and I
Hmm.
also think that there's a chance that he may not be on the board right there at 24 overall. But I mean, I wouldn't call him my boy. I don't know how that happened.
Yeah, maybe that's in jest a little bit, but I do think he checks a lot of boxes. Mike's making reference to my mock draft Saturday. Yeah, you guys watching Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. I'll be running the Steelers for walkthemock.com, doing 3 rounds with trades. That'll be a lot of fun. I'll do a live stream for that. So 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You guys can help and be my scouts. Dan Jennings says, "Would you say Kalen Ballage is the best running back on the Steelers right now?" I would say it's a tie for last place in terms of who's the best one. I mean, I'm not even sure I would go with right now. Maybe Snell, just because he's a little bit more proven than McFarland, but I wouldn't say Ballage is the best running back in that room right now. But doesn't really say much whoever you put at the top spot.
Oh, I could make a crude joke here, but I won't.
Keep it clean.
But
Who do you think the best
okay,
running back? Who do you think the best running back on this roster is
uh,
right now?
pass.
I knew you were going to say that. All right.
Look, I mean, Benny Snell's put up a couple of explosive runs. We have seen Benny Snell get stronger as games go on, and really, that's probably the positive that we have on him right now.
Right.
That and about 3 or 4 explosive runs. So within that, I think he wins by default, and it's a low bar right now.
hmm Michael with a question: assuming they get a running back in the draft, which guys or guy maybe it would be, would you cut come cut down day? Jalen
Jalen
Samuels,
Samuels.
Jinx. Now, do you cut two? Though is the question. You're going to keep 4 running backs. You have rookie plus Snell plus McFarland. Actually, that would just be three, I guess, huh? Right, Snell, McFarland, rookie is three.
Yeah, look, I mean, will they cut somebody? I kind of doubt it. I mean, you need to take a large selection of these guys to camp.
Yeah, he says come cut down day. He says August, September.
Oh yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, something's gone horribly wrong if Jalen Samuels makes this 53-man roster
Right.
this year.
KHOR201 says, "Can you guys tell us about the defensive lineman free agent they just signed?" Kept that article up on the site. Abdullah Anderson played with the Bears in 2019. Saw a cup of coffee there with the practice squad in Minnesota last season. What have you learned about Abdullah Anderson?
You go back and looked at some of it. Believe it or not, I've gone back and looked at Bucknell tape. Uh, Played a little bit over the nose too. Got a little bit of quickness off the ball there. Not as Chris Wormley ish
Mm,
maybe. A little bit quicker, I think, off the ball. Uh, Played up and down. I think the defensive line at Bucknell he got some strength to him. I think, but other than that, really didn't pop out. I mean, he's only played 113 defensive snaps in the NFL, I think, and a good portion of those I think came with the Bears a couple years ago there. So I mean, look, this is a fringe guy that you hope maybe can push a guy like Wormley, but I wouldn't go buy his jersey right now. No.
yeah, I wouldn't either. As one sack came off of, I couldn't tell that was a stunt or not, but it was just kind of a Bridgewater fell into him with pressure from Khalil Mack. Maybe you got to push Isaiah Buggs, who probably needs the motivation and the pushing.
There you go.
I just lost a question here. Saloon says, "Fantastic show. Thank you so much. Do you guys think James Pierre will be our starting slot corner next season? This college tape show he's capable of playing the slot. Cheers from Brazil. I think Pierre's an outside corner, potentially at right corner or left corner if this is going to be Hayden's final year in Pittsburgh, which is certainly possible. I don't see Pierre being a great fit in the slot, though."
I don't either. I view him as a outside guy as well too. Gonna be interesting to see how they handle this whole slot thing this
Yeah,
year.
it's a question mark. Which you re-signed Sutton and still slots a question mark. That's a surprise to me. But obviously that happened after the release of Steven Nelson. Joel Coleman says, "Good day. Enjoying the mock drafts you both are putting out. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Joel. What center do you think fits the team most ideally?" I think from
Oh, here it comes.
here comes the Landon Dickerson comment with the caveat, of course, of medical evaluation notwithstanding. But I think Creed Humphrey fits really well. And tomorrow on Steelers Depot, I'll have my list of the interior offensive linemen who fit what the Steelers are looking for. And let's just say maybe a center from Oklahoma might be making that list, Dave.
Yeah, at least he is over 6'4", though. There, look, he's got the. You look at the athletic profile on him. You look at the overall tape on him. I mean, I don't see how he's not, center one or center two,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Right. Any other centers? I mean, obviously, you do like Quinn Miners a lot. Anyone else you want to toss out there?
Yeah, man, and Myers is on. Look, I don't think Myers is getting the run that he deserves here. To be quite honest with you,
Mm-hmm.
Josh Myers out of Ohio State, I think you can make a strong argument for him to be up there top two. To be honest with you, as we've talked for quite a while, the big issue with the why would Dane Brugler have him listed as a guard at the NFL level?
For his size, being 6'5", 310, usually more of a guard profile than a center profile, my guess.
I mean, and Dane, I've read Dane for years. I like Dane stuff, and for him to list him entirely as a guard, I found that kind of interesting.
Yeah, did he play any guard early days Ohio State? Maybe he did.
No, I'm talking about Landon.
Oh, Landon. Oh, I'm sorry, they're about Myers. I think Dickerson played some guard too, and look, Dickerson's
Well,
a big guy
Dickerson
too.
played
At
all
six.
five.
Yeah,
Dickerson's played all five spots up there, but between Florida State and Alabama, he played all. Now, more some than others, obviously, but he played all five spots during his
right.
college career.
I think it was back because Dickerson's like 6'5", 322, and I think that's, or even maybe heavier than that. But I think that's just a guard size that is prototypical with the position.
He's got him as his second overall guard behind Vera Tucker of USC. He does not even have Dickerson listed on his center list.
Does he cross centers and guards typically, or does he only list guys at one position and won't list them at multiple
No,
spots?
he only has them. I think he only has them.
It's just for the size thing, I'm guessing. But obviously Dickerson can play center, and the Steelers could draft him as such.
Okay, I just found that a bit curious when I got his new draft guide here.
It is. I would have thought he would have been at center as well. A couple other later round guys in terms of center that fits the mold. Robert Hainsey from Notre Dame and Kendrick Green from Illinois, I think, are two guys that would fit the Steelers pretty well, and they show an interest in both of those guys.
What do you think about Jack Anderson, our buddy Jack Anderson, as a developmental practice squad guy?
Yeah, late day 3, strong, tough. He's going to be one of those T-Rex guys, though, that you rag on a little bit. I think he's got like 31 and 7/8 arms, I think is Jack Anderson. 5/8, yeah, so pretty short, but just your typical kind of tough, stout center. Now, he actually played guard, I think only right guard at Tech, so I'll have to learn about playing center, and so that's going to be a challenge for him. But late round, day 3 guy, I think you could do worse than that.
Not a great center class, is it?
I don't know. I like it.
Not that it really
ever
is, right?
I like it. I love Dickerson, and I think Myers is a decent player, and Humphrey and Miners. I mean, the center class is only always so good, as you say, but I think it's a pretty decent center class.
Where would you rank? Say a couple of these top 3 guys as compared to the Wisconsin kid last year. Remember remember pre-draft with him? It was, oh man, this is center number 1, first round.
Mm-hmm.
And then
it was all medical.
All they fell.
Yeah, it was a medical issue with Biadish, and that
and
caused
Nick
him
Harris
to fall.
too, didn't he? Nick,
right.
Was it Nick?
Yeah, the Washington center. It was pretty undersized. I don't know how I would rank it, but I think I like this class better than I did last year's class.
Okay,
so I would view that
because you were big on the on the LSU center, Cushenberry too, and Ruiz. What Cesar Ruiz part of that?
Yeah, he was. I think Ruiz was the first center off the board somewhere in the 40s. I want to say is where he went.
So how would you compare this year's center class to last year's center class?
I think it's comparable. I think this year's class is a little bit better.
This year?
Yeah, this year's a little bit better than last year.
Okay.
Last year. All right, couple more questions here. David O, how do you feel about your thoughts on Kim Hayward lobbying against in-person off-season workouts? I get it, obviously in the pandemic. I have no problem with that, and that's kind of the job and role that Hayward has right now. So I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah, J.C. Treader came out and had that made that put out that essay, and then evidently had that call and all like that, and uh, I they come running and following up on that. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out, right?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what's going to happen. I know the owners are pushing for some sort of in-person work this spring, and I don't know how well that's going to go over and if there's any sort of agreement that can be made there with the union.
You can bet. Well, here's the thing: how many weeks are we away now from rookie mini camps?
Yeah, they typically take place.
2 weeks after the draft, right?
Yeah, it'd be
Second weekend after the draft.
May. Yeah, those will probably get pushed if they happen. They're going to get pushed back. I don't think they'll happen on schedule. Maybe you do something in I don't know early mid June. I mean, you have your OTs and mini camps, generally then. So I don't think anything on field could even happen until June. I'll say.
Yeah, I don't like to get into who's right and who's wrong in these situations. I definitely see both sides of it, but the union right now, looking back at last year and them trying to pump the injury numbers, being down, and you understand what they want to work, they want to get paid more, work less.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Alex. No, I'm
Hey now.
kidding there. But I understand both sides of it.
Right, right. All right, guys. I think that's probably just about it for questions today. I'm just kind of scrolling through here things one last time, kind of running out of time. I know Dave's got to run here in a moment, so thank you guys for being here. As a reminder, my mock draft Saturday, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Jump on with you guys, hang out for a couple of hours, and Dave and I will be back in 2 weeks, or right before the draft, I believe, to talk about any other draft thoughts and any other news that comes across the wire. So as always, Dave, thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you. And if you're on the Twitter machine, retweet one of us. If you don't care for me too much, then retweet Alex's stuff, and that'll be just as good there. Get on Instagram. Go see Tyler Wise over there on the Instagram account, and we got a Facebook account as well too. And if you'll make sure to like and all these videos and all like that, that'll help us along too. And peace and love to everybody. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Thank you for being here. Take care. You can see an archive of this on YouTube or on the site over on Steelers Depot. It will get posted in just a little bit. So thank you guys for being here, and we'll talk to you soon.